Hey everyone, welcome back to the garden. So, all those plants I just showed you? Well, it's plant haul planting day. So come garden with us and let's get all of those plants in the ground. The plants are all back down here. I didn't want to leave them out. I thought we were going to get to this yesterday, but we didn't. So I didn't want to leave them in their locations that far from the house because I thought there are some plants here that deer would nip on. So I'm going to have to carry these all back up. And then we'll water them really well before we get them in the ground. Okay, so the one plant is in the location where it's going to go. I put the Biotone starter fertilizer bag where the second one will go. We do not have that yet. I will bring that home from work on Monday. I think we're going to dig the hole though. Once we get this one in, we're going to use the container to mark the spot. That way when I bring it home, you just plunk it in the ground. Well, we've had to abandon the one hole, just way too many really big roots. So we're going to come down farther and instead of like being 1, 2 up there where I wanted, it might be 1, 2 over here. We'll see how many holes we have to dig before we can get this plant in the ground. It's extremely difficult even getting this thing out of the container. Now you know why. After you saw the struggles we went through just to get a hole dug, you know why I don't do most of the planting in our property. While my husband is breaking up this roots, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we're doing this, because he just said he hates breaking up all these roots. So we're adding Biotone, which has been proven to increase dramatically the amount of root growth in the first 3 months that the plant is in the ground. And since the plant's going dormant over the winter, that is when plants put on most of their root growth. They do not grow roots in the spring, summer, and fall. They grow roots when they're dormant. So this plant will be putting on massive amounts of new root growth over the winter, which is why fall is such a good time to plant, because next spring it'll be ready for the rest of the season and whatever our crazy summers are going to throw out this plant. So that's why it's great planting in the fall, and that's why it's great using Biotone. Now that's not to say plants are not going to grow any roots in the spring, summer, and summer when you plant them. Of course they will grow roots, but the majority of the root growth on shrubs, trees, and perennials happens in the winter when the actual plant itself is dormant. Well, after much trouble, we finally got the one Virginia Sweet Spire in, and we got the second hole dug, so that all we have to do is come up here with the second one and drop that in on Monday. This hole was much, much easier to dig because over the years we have had several things up here before that did not work and we had to dig out. So the ground has not completely grown over with roots, and the soil was actually quite loamy. So maybe we should have put the first one here. Anyway, so the hole's dug for the second Virginia Sweet Spire so that we can just drop it in. Okay, just a real quick blurb for anyone who didn't watch the plant haul video. We have these 3 Incrediball Blush. These are just going here for the winter so that we can move them at our leisure next year. They are meant to replace the 3 Tiger Eye sumacs here that will be moving up to the meadow. But we're not transplanting anything now. It's just too dry. So that's why these are going in a holding location. The fern is down there. Not 100% sure if that's staying in this bed or not. So that might be in a holding location for now. The only thing that's going to be in its permanent location is the guacamole hosta here. Everybody should know by now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, the crabapple will be moving next year as well. So we're going to get these in the ground real quick. So the auger does save us some time. 90% of the time cannot complete the hole with just the auger. It does fluff the soil up and it does make planting a lot quicker. We just can't zip along like some other YouTube channels do with the auger. Our ground is very, very rocky and very, very full of tree roots. All right, so we got everything in. I didn't film the whole thing, but so you can see, obviously, the guacamole hosta. I think I'm going to come up with a cloche and cover that because I feel like it's going to get eaten by deer. Same way I have this one covered. Here's one of the Incrediball Blushes. The other 2 are here. Fern is back there. And I think we tried to get this particular Incrediball Blush as far away from that Incrediball as we could, so that next year we can just drop a 3rd Incrediball in the hole that this Incrediball Blush is in. We couldn't come back any farther because we did encounter that pipe, and if we came back any farther here, then it would be too far away from the other 2. So we will put a 3rd Incrediball in here next year. Once they start to grow together, you won't notice that those 2 are maybe slightly closer together than these 2. All right, so let's move on to the next part of the property. I think we're going to get the St. John's wort planted down there inside the fence. So I think what I decided is we're going to plant this pumpkin St. John's wort in farther up against the fence. That way Veronica that's planted here doesn't get shaded. That needs to get moved next year too, but at least it's evergreen for us. So I want to make sure that it's getting sun. So again, this is a temporary location because the St. John's wort is going to take the place of this one echinops here. We'll dig that out in the spring. Here are the stats on the Hypericum, just in case. I don't know if I showed anybody the stats on these, on this. So it's called pumpkin. It's a St. John's wort, and it is a full sun, drought tolerant, deer resistant shrub. 2.5 to 3 feet tall, 2 to 2.5 wide. Yellow flowers in spring. Actually, in my experience, the yellow flowers kind of last all through the summer. Our other one is flowering still. It has the pretty berries in the fall, and actually those kind of start very early. I would say midsummer. So let's see, hardiness down to zone 6 and up to zone 9. So not a huge range of hardiness, but again, it's a really pretty shrub to add to your gardens. No, it's kind of tough to see because of the shadows, but St. John's wort is in its location, at least for this part of its life. It'll be moving in about 6 months. But it's so pretty with the berries and the yellow flowers, and we can see this at our side door when we look out here. Really a pretty shrub. All right, second to the last, we need to get this pinky pollen ring hydrangea in, and we've decided that it's just makes more sense to move the one on the left here. And if you watched the plant haul video, I had said that the one on the left probably needs to go down a little bit to the left, because when we planted that one, it was a quart-sized container, it was smaller, and the barberry had not been pruned. The barberry is pruned now, so we have a lot of space between it and the established pinky pollen ring. It just makes sense to get everything spaced properly now, so next spring we don't have to worry about it. So that's what we're going to do. First, I'll just show you when we're finished. Alright, so the new pinky pollen ring is planted. That's the bigger one in the middle, and then the one on the end there has been moved. These are smooth hydrangeas, so they can be cut back in the spring all the way to the ground and you won't lose the blooms. So that's probably what we'll do to the two on the end, because they did grow rather funky this year. And you can see how their stems have kind of curled, which is kind of weird. Obviously you want straight stems on your bushes, so that's what we'll do with those in the spring. But I do feel like 3 was definitely needed up here, so I'm glad that I was able to grab the final one at the garden center and that we were able to get those in today. Or get it in today and get the other one shifted down slightly. So I do think in the spring these will fill in nicely. At least I'm going by experience with the 3 we planted in the Thea Thin Man bed, and they look really good. So our final plant to get in for the day and for hopefully the year is the groundhog chokeberry, and that's going to go right here. And the reason why we're putting it here is because when we do get rain and it's heavy, it tends to run along this bit of a divot. I know you can't see that on the camera. It runs here to go into the start of the dry creek bed and then down to our rain garden and then out to the street. And the mulch all tends to run and the soil tends to loosen. So I don't expect that the chokeberry is going to be any help with that for this year. But once it starts to grow, the way these chokeberries grow is wherever one of these puts down, it will set roots into the ground, and that's how they help with erosion control. So once this gets out of the container, the poor thing, I can imagine when we take this out, it's going to be pretty darn root bound. But once it gets itself settled and established, it will start to help with a little bit of erosion control here. So that's why this is going here. Roots on this thing are crazy. They just get wrapped around and around, and they're like feet long. This poor thing definitely needed to be rescued. Okay, so again, this was the groundhog chokeberry, and you can see a picture of it when it's in bloom and when it's leafed out, what it looks like. It's a small shrub. It's a low growing. It's almost like a ground cover shrub, and it is sun to part shade. It's obviously it's native. Mass planting, ground cover, naturalizing rain gardens. 8 to 14 inches tall, 3 feet wide. Well, 3 feet wide might be a problem there, but we'll deal with that. Hardiness zone is USDA 3 through 9. Got a tough spot? Let groundhog aronia transform it into an easy care carpet of green. In spring, it's covered in dainty white flowers, and come autumn, the leaves blaze orange and red. So, and it does get little berries, you can see. So it really is a cute little shrub, a tough native for difficult situations. So that's why we planted this one here. And it'll be a cute little mound of green and leaves in the spring and little white flowers. So thanks for coming along with us today, guys. I really feel so much better getting these plants in the ground. I didn't really want to overwinter them in containers, although I was perfectly prepared to do that before we got some warm-ups in the weather. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. We do have some bulbs to plant, so we'll be planting those in November, daffodils and some alliums. So hopefully we'll see you then. Bye.